Omri?
Good morning. My name is Omri. Thank you for coming this morning. Thanks, Vlad, for the invitation, and Laurel and Anna. I'm going to challenge you now with video clips. I think you are up for a challenge here. So, as said, my day job is I'm a fixer for TV shows, and I'm developing TV shows all around the world. These days mainly in India, so I just came back from India. But my bio, I used to be one of the writers of Israel's most popular comedy show. I'm very much into comedy. I even married one. My wife is here. She's a comedy writer herself.
It's my birthday.
Happy birthday! It's much cheaper than buying a gift. So after I was a writer for Israel's most popular comedy show, I got this amazing scholarship to travel all around the world for a year to learn how they're making comedy. Actually making content in general, how they're making stories. And I met a lot of interesting people, storytellers and TV executives. TV executives are not as interesting. And we talked about how can we make people cut through the clutter of noise, endless noise that there is today in the world. And comedy was a very powerful tool. So by 2014, when I finished my tenure, I brought all the best comedy writers in the world to the funniest place on earth, the city of Jerusalem, that no one ever. And we were sitting for a few days, and we created a community of comedy writers from all around the world that are obliged to generate and push forward social change. And what I'm going to do today is I want to go over a couple of the insights that we had there. We've done them, since then we've done 4 or 5 more events. But I want to share with you a couple of the outtakes that we had about how can comedy generate social change and what can comedy do. I'm going to talk about what can comedy do, then I will talk about how can comedy do that, and finally I will talk about our latest initiative, which is a call for action for all of you to help me with. So, pay attention. So, practically comedy has 5 things that we are talking about. We are talking about basically there is a war these days. We are bombarded with endless amount of messages from all over. We are surrounded by endless amounts of content and messages and fake news from all over, and each of us built a wall, a very tall wall like between Mexico and the US, big wall. What comedy can do is help us pass that wall. It can do it from above, it can do it from beneath, it can do it from the side, but this is our goal, to break through that wall and to get the message coming across, no matter how complicated it is and no matter how tough the audience are. So we're talking about 5 major stuff that comedy can generate. The first one is attracting attention. And obviously I think the best example for attracting attention was, you all recognize that frame, right? Is there anyone who knows? You remember yes, exactly, the Ice Bucket Challenge in 2014. I guess I will start differently. In 2013, nobody in the world knew what the ALS is, unless you were, unfortunately, had the disease. In 2014, after the Ice Bucket Challenge, everybody knew what an ALS is, and they also raised almost $500 million in donation because of that silly campaign of. Is there anyone here who doesn't know what the Ice Bucket Challenge was? Okay, even millennials know. So attracting attention, it brought a lot of attention to this unsexy topic. And this is something that is very interesting about comedy. It can generate interest even in the most unsexy topics. Next. I'm going to compress now, by the way, a lecture of an hour and a half into 20 minutes. So bear with me. feelings. And this world that we created is kind of like making us not generate feelings or topics that some of them needs us to be emotional about. Comedy can help you do that. This example, and I'm not going to show you most of the clips because the length of time, but I will send it to whoever wants and you can watch it later. But this is Jimmy Kimmel Live. This is 2 days after his son had the heart surgery. And his son, he was born with a heart problem, and they had to give him surgery a few days after he was born. And the same days, the Senate was supposed to vote on a health care bill that was supposed to make the people the parents pay for those kind of surgeries, which is, for Jimmy Kimmel, it's not that complicated, but I guess for the ordinary American would be tougher. Jimmy Kimmel went on his comedy show and gave a funny yet heartbreaking speech about the situation that he's in, and he made all the Senate members feel very bad about voting against that bill. Obviously, some of the Republicans did vote for the bill, but the New York Times described it as Jimmy Kimmel just stopped this bad legislation. That was the description by a comedy show. Next thing is, everybody knows who this guy is? Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so John Oliver was using comedy to unpack complex social issues. He's taking the most unsexy topics that nobody wants to hear about, that broadcast television will look at like an STD, and he's giving a 30-minute monologues about them. Not only that, sometimes with a call for action. This one is about net neutrality. Net neutrality is the most boring topic I can think of. It's about the bandwidth of the internet, about legislation regarding technology. I couldn't ask for something more boring than that. And he was able, let's show the first clip, and he was even taken the fact that it's boring. You can start. Almost. Never mind. So anyway, he was talking about the fact that net neutrality is boring. He was saying the two most boring words in the English language since featuring Sting. And then he was giving a 30 minutes long talking, breaking what net neutrality is and how it will influence our lives. And the reason that people stayed was because it was extremely funny. The reason I'm emphasizing that moment was because at the end of his monologue, he was saying, listen, on Sunday there's going to be a very important meeting of the FCC, the Federal Communication Committee of the US. And they have a website where they're asking people to give their insight about the topic that are being discussed. Now, nobody gives a shit about it. He said, everybody, every internet troll, every internet board person that is now writing an idiotic feedback on a YouTube clip, I want you all to go online to the FCC / whatever, and I want, oh, here, can you put that? So I want you all to go online right now and make this FCC website collapse. Anna, we believe in you.
Borrowing references to the internet are changing.
Can you make it louder?
The Federal Communications Commission has agreed to move forward on a proposal. It could change the way we use the internet. At risk, the basic principle of net neutrality.
Net neutrality.
Net neutrality.
Yes, net neutrality. The only two words that promise more boredom in the English language are featuring Sting. And hearing people talk about it is somehow even worse.
As anticipated, the notice proposes to ground the net neutrality rules in Section 706 of the Telecommunications Act of 1996.
Oh my God, that is the most boring thing I've ever seen. That is even boring by C-SPAN standards.
Okay, now jump to the end of the...
and sit through that hearing. I would rather listen to a pair of dockers tell me about the weird dream it had. I would rather sit down with my knee, do some fucking karate.
Okay.
In your life, we need you to channel that anger, that badly reserved for unforgivable attacks on actresses you seem to think have put on weight. Or politicians that you disagree with. Or photos of your ex-girlfriend getting on with her life. Or non-white actors being cast as fictional characters. And I'm talking to you, Ron Paul fan 2016. And you, One Direction forever. And I'm talking to you, One Direction sucks balls. We need you to get out there and for once in your lives, focus your indiscriminate rage in a useful direction. Seize your moments, my lovely trolls. Turn on Caps Rock and fly my cricket.
Okay, what happened next was that 2 hours later, the FCC website was dropped. It kind of like made a huge noise all around the US. The fact that there is that kind of committee, there is that kind of a topic. It stopped the legislation for 2 years till Donald Trump got elected, and he pushed it back and doesn't really care about that kind of issues. But for 2 years, that was the reason why the net neutrality legislation was intact. Next. So breaking down social barriers. Again, so once after we made people interested about the topic, this is another way. You all recognize the gay couple from Modern Family, one of the most popular sitcoms in the US over the last decade. They every week were able to bring even to the most Republican territories representation of same-sex couple, and kind of like to make people understand to their living room where their walls are down and their barriers are down, and they are willing to accept more content. And when you read the researchers about the shift in changing perspective about gay marriage, the approach of Americans towards same-sex marriage, they are talking about the contribution of Pam and Eric, I think their names are in the show, to the topic. Now, sharing with others. Now, comedy is generating an ad hoc communities that defines the people that share them online, which makes it very powerful thing. So if you are sharing something on your Facebook, you are kind of like announcing something about yourself, and whoever does do a live on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, it's kind of like it's taking a part in this micro ad hoc community. So it makes a very instant capsule of messaging that can gain great traction. Okay, so those are the 5 elements of what can comedy do. Now let's talk about how can comedy do it. Obviously, satirical news, as we just heard. Since our wall is lower when we see white men in a suit sitting behind the desk and giving us data, because we are used to him being very serious. Satirical news are a very effective tool to use that. I use that picture because it's very interesting how the line has blurred between actual news and comedy. This is when John Oliver did his research about FIFA, and they come up with a couple of insights about the topic that most of the mainstream media haven't noticed. A few years before that, Jon Stewart did a piece about Sarah Palin. Oh, wow. Sarah Palin, and the fact that, if we have 2 minutes, I really run out of stuff. Sarah Palin had some contradiction, and he opened a criminal investigation that even the New York Times didn't notice. Let's go for it quick. Crowd and impressions. We've done a couple of months ago on March, we did in South by, we've done a gathering of Donald Trump impersonators from all around the world. We had been discussing 15 different Donald Trumps from China, from Russia, from a female Donald Trump from Sweden. Next, stand-up routine also became very important because there's an inflation in them. But it's very interesting to see people from very niche cultures are getting the main stage, like Hannah Gatsby, who is a lesbian, and she has an autism, and she's a survivor of sex offense, and she's doing a comedy about that. So she is able to talk about those topics. Comic songs, very interesting story by Tim Minchin, who wrote a song about Cardinal Pell from the Catholic church that ran away, and his song became so popular that he won the second place on the most popular songs in Australia. He donated all the royalties to the victims of that person, to fly them over to see him in court in Rome. Very interesting story. This is the prank. I will emphasize on that for a second. We did this right after Donald Trump won by a big margin. Our community gathered in London, and we created that app. It's called the DNA test. It's the first app that you can know your DNA heritage by leaking your smartphone. You're taking your smartphone, you're leaking it, and then it says, well, like the rest of the world, you're also from Africa, you phone leaking idiot. And the front camera was working, so you're getting a clip of yourself leaking your smartphone like an idiot. And we only made the distribution where Donald Trump won by a big margin. So I know for sure that we made 10,000 racist Americans who leaked their smartphones like idiots. Made no change in the world, made us feel better. Sketch, this is interesting sketch because what's interesting about it is that everything that is said about in the sketch, it's about a shopping channel and how they are selling guns on shopping channels these days. And what's interesting about the sketch is that everything that is said on that sketch is true. I mean, they are using just real facts. So, in such a crazy reality, even the reality is funny. And I will skip the piece of that we've done. No, let's skip that one. I just want to get to the final point. And this is the latest venture that we are doing, and I need your help in that. I will stop in a second, I'll just finish that. And the Finger Awards is our latest initiative. We are going to do now a competition, an annual competition about how can comedy make a change in the world. We have already 20 nominees from different countries that generated something that was comic and generated a change. It can be an ad campaign, it can be a tweet, it can be a trolling, it can be a sketch. We need as many candidates as possible from as many countries as possible, translated to Hebrew. If it generated change, if it raised awareness or made some kind of change, we'll be happy to get it. And I guess that's it. More questions? I'm here.
Thank you so much.